As revolts spread throughout the Middle East, what do these uprisings mean for America's interest in the region? Joining us now is Parag Khanna, New America Foundation Senior Fellow and author of How to Run the World. Parag, good morning. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Let's begin in Bahrain. As we just heard from Alan Pizzi, a lot of things going on this morning. How important is Bahrain to U.S. interests?
Very, and it's really the most unstable of the situations that we're facing in the region right now. This is the anchor point for the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet. Therefore, it's of immense strategic relevance to the United States. Absent this anchor, not sure really where our naval forces would be stationed.
Politically, what is unique about Bahrain?
What's unique about Bahrain is this small island nation is a monarchy, but the minority Sunni ruling family rules over a 70% Shia population. So there's a tremendous amount of unrest. But it's important to emphasize that the tension that we're seeing is not just because of religious factionalism. It's really basic issues like civil services and education and employment and shelter and so forth.
Let's move on to Libya. Muammar Gaddafi, been in power there more than 40 years, a pretty wily guy. What do you think? Is he in danger, and what's going on?
Colonel Gaddafi isn't really in danger. He has ruled the country with an iron fist for over 4 decades. The protests are actually in the second largest city of Benghazi, so they haven't really spread across to the capital city of Tripoli. He has for decades faced various unrest of different kinds, always been able to quash it. So as much as we're seeing an inspiration or copycat effect from Cairo, we're really not going to see it topple the regime just yet.
And as far as the U.S. is concerned, why is Libya important?
Well, you know, the thaw with Libya really began in 2006 when Colonel Gaddafi agreed to give up his nuclear weapons program. So there was some hope of cooperating more with him on counterterrorism and other issues in stabilizing North Africa. Obviously, it's also an oil and gas-rich country that provides a lot of resources to Europe. So it is very strategic.
Okay, let's move on to Yemen, the poorest country in the Middle East.
Is
that fueling some of the protests there?
Absolutely. This is a country that is far smaller than Saudi Arabia and yet has almost exactly the same population size. So it's really a tinderbox of unrest. And they too are protesting against a regime that is a strong American ally, the regime of Abdullah Saleh. And he has been very brutal. At the same time, though, it's been an ally of the United States against al-Qaeda because there is a very strong al-Qaeda presence in the country. So we have been ramping up activities and cooperation on the military side with the government, and now that government is very much in question.
Do you see political change there in a real way soon?
Very likely, because he, as other governments has done, has sort of sacked members of the cabinet and so forth and announced sweeping changes. But the people have yet to see the results. It's going to be a long time for them to actually witness progress.
Okay, let's talk about Jordan. King Abdullah, of course, long ally of the U.S., along with his father, does a preemptive strike a couple of weeks ago, basically fires everyone.
Right.
Is he in trouble?
He sacked the cabinet. He appointed a new prime minister in order to assure the people that he was going to take real steps towards reforming the government and creating accountability. He isn't really at risk because he's a constitutional monarch with a tremendous amount of religious legitimacy and some broad popularity in society. It is a poor Bedouin tribal country, so you're not seeing this concentrated kind of unrest. The people aren't necessarily motivated to do so. They just want to see more accountable leadership. He may have to deliver that. He may have to do some of the things that we're pushing for in Egypt and other places, which is allowing new political parties to form, really allowing genuine parliamentary politics to take shape. If he gives ground on that, I think that he will be okay.
Parag, there's a real desire here to equate what's going on in the Middle East with what happened in Europe 20 years ago with the fall of the Iron Curtain. Fair analogy?
Well, the 1989 analogy is tempting, but what's more interesting is to look back at Arabs' own history. In the 1950s, the free officer movements, Nasser in Egypt and Gaddafi in Libya and others, overthrew the Western-backed monarchs in the decolonization period. So now we're seeing 50, 60 years later this new wave of Arab-driven revolts.
Parag Khanna, thank you so much for your insight. Really do appreciate it.